Good morning, class 11th Commerce, subject Economics, chapter number 5, Theory of Demand, lecture number 5. So, in this particular lecture, we shall cover the topic Law of Demand, its definition, example, exceptions, and assumption. Let's proceed with our lecture. So, Law of Demand. Law of Demand states that all things being equal, that means all the determinants that we did yesterday, the individual demand determinants and market demand determinants, all the determinants are equal, that means all are constant. Fine. We are assuming that all the determinants are constant. Fine. As the price of a product increases, quantity demanded falls. Similarly, as the price of a product decreases, quantity demanded increases. Hence, we can state that there is inverse relationship between quantity demanded and its price. Fine. This is the demand curve. Fine. On y-axis, we have price. On x-axis, we have quantity. Fine. Demand curve slopes downward, as you can clearly see here, with decrease in price from P1 to P2, quantity demanded has increased from Q1 to Q2. Again, with decrease in price from P2 to P3, there is increase in quantity from Q2 to Q3. So, price and quantity demanded, they have negative relationship, other things being constant. What are the assumptions of law of demand? There are certain assumptions to the law of demand. First one is there is no change in income. That means Y is constant. No change in the size and composition of population. This is the determinant of market demand function, right? No change in the price of related goods. Related goods includes two types of goods, that is substitute goods and complementary goods. Clear? No change in the consumer's taste and preferences. No change of the price in near future. No expectation of price change in near future, and no change in the climatic condition. That means which factor is missing here? Which factor is missing here? Own price of the commodity. The very first factor which we did in determinants of demand function, that was own price of the commodity. That means that this own price is not constant. That implies we have formulated this law of demand with the help of own price of the commodity. That means in this law of demand, own price of the commodity is playing the major role, because all other factors except this factor are constant. All other factors are constant, right? Only this factor is playing a game in this law of demand. Fine. When own price of the commodity will change, then only the demand will change. keeping all other factors constant. Clear? Then the question comes, why does demand curve slopes downward? You know, this is the shape of demand curve, right? This is the demand curve. Okay, DD is the demand curve. Got it? Here we have price, here we have quantity. Now, what is the reason that it is downward sloping? We could make it like this also. Yes. Why we have not made it like this and we have made it like this? In the further chapters, you will see that this is the shape of supply curve. This positively straight line. Sorry, this. It will start from the origin. Yeah, this. This will be the shape of supply curve. But we are talking about the demand curve. So demand curve is sloping downward. What is the reason? Why? Most important question. You will definitely get this type of question in exam. Why does demand curve slopes downward? See, first is law of diminishing marginal utility. The students who are daily studying from the book, they might be knowing that this topic we have done in the chapter marginal utility. Chapter number 2 and 3. Law of diminishing marginal utility. According to this law, as consumption of a commodity increases, marginal utility derived from each successive unit goes on declining. Accordingly, for every additional unit to be purchased, consumer is willing to buy less and less price. That's why with increase in price, our consumption decreases. Then income effect. Income effects refer to the effect on quantity demanded when real income of the buyer changes owing to the change in price of the commodity. With fall in price, real income increases. Accordingly, demand for the commodity expands. Third one is substitution effect. Substitution effect refers to the substitution of one commodity for the other when it becomes relatively cheaper. Thus, when own price of commodity X falls, it becomes cheaper in relation to commodity Y. Accordingly, X is substituted for Y. It is expansion of demand due to substitution effect. Then fourth point we have size of consumer group. When price of a commodity falls, many more buyers can afford to buy it. Accordingly, demand for the commodity expands. So if number of consumers increases, demand also increases. Fine. When price will fall, that means now more people can afford to buy the particular commodity and hence size of consumer group will increase. With increase in the size of consumer group, the quantity demanded will also increase. Then different uses. A good may have several uses. Milk, for example, is used for making curd, cheese, butter. If price of milk reduces, that means you can put it into different uses. And accordingly, demand for milk will expand. Okay. So these were the reasons why does demand curve slope downward. Here S will not come, I'm sorry. Yeah, it is why does demand curve slope downward. Now, in the last lecture, we discussed that income effect can be positive or negative. Income effect is positive when increase in income causes increase in demand. as in case of normal goods. And income effect is negative when increase in income causes decrease in demand, as in case of inferior goods. You remember that? Inferior goods, normal goods, their relationship with the income. Okay. Now, today what we did the assumption. Law of demand, hold goods when other thing being constant, remain constant. What are the factors which are constant? Taste and preference of the consumer, no change in the income, price of the related good remains constant. There is no change in the expectations of change in price in the near future. So assumption of law of demand refer to all those determinants of demand other than the own price of the commodity. I told you that own price of the commodity plays a major role in the law of demand. Own price of the commodity is not constant. Else all other factors are constant. Fine. Okay, one more question. Suppose if I ask you why we demand goods, or if I say why are goods demanded? Yes. Why do you demand different kind of goods? Why you want an iPhone? Why you want the branded shoes? Why you want branded clothes? Why you want to go to the good restaurant to celebrate your birthday? Why we do such things? Why do we demand goods? See, we demand goods and services because they have the capacity to satisfy our wants. In chapter utility, we discuss that goods have the want satisfying power, and that is what known as utility. We can say that goods are demanded because they possess utility. So here आप हर माइक्रो में आप चीजों को कोरिलेट करके चलो, ठीक है? यूटिलिटी से डिमांड को कोरिलेट किया, because goods have utility, that's why they are demanded. Goods have utility, that's why they are demanded. Goods have want satisfying power, that's why they are demanded. Clear? Okay. So, demand ka, what is law of demand? Law of demand states that there is negative relationship between own price of the commodity and quantity demanded. So, your homework is you will explain law of demand with diagram and table with the assumptions. In the next lecture, we'll discuss about the exceptions to the law of demand, also very important, and change in quantity demanded and movement along the demand curve. We shall discuss these topics in the further videos, but till now we have discussed law of demand, its assumption, and why does demand curve slope downward. Your homework, explain law of demand with the table, diagram, and it's also explain the assumptions. Thank you.